What's going on? It's Sean from Barbell Built Body, and today we're walking through more bench press tips. We're going to be talking about form, how the bar path should be looking on the way down and on the way back up. And if you're missing lifts a few inches off your chest at that sticking point, what you can do to fix it. So there's multiple things we're going through today, and we're going to be addressing what the root cause is, how to work on those issues, and my favorite exercise for a bench accessory. Let's get to it. One of the most common things I see in the bench press, and should be a red flag, the best bench pressers in the world look very similar on their descent of the bench press as they do on their ascent of the bench press. So that shoulder abduction angle should not be changing much. You come down, you come back up. If you are somebody who fails to lift a few inches off your chest or has large amounts of abduction in your press, you have weak triceps. This is why. What's happening is as you come down, you're strong, way stronger in the eccentric contraction. So as you come down, elbows are tracking good, right? That shoulder abduction angle stays the same. You begin the press upwards, a few inches off your chest. All of a sudden, you don't have the strength in your triceps to lock out that movement. So what happens? You abduct the shoulders. What does this do? This does two things. It lengthens both the long head of the triceps, because the long head of the triceps is partially responsible for shoulder abduction, or adduction, and so is the pec major. So when you do that, as you're coming up, you lengthen those muscles, putting them in a more optimal place to generate force, thereby finishing out the lift like that. So you come up, you're weak, elbow abduction, stretch on the pec and the long head, and you're able to get the force required to lock out the lift. Now, this should be a red flag. If you have a lot of elbow abduction or shoulder abduction during the bench press, this should be a red flag warning. And oftentimes it is very visible. One, I keep seeing videos of this all the time. I see large amount of abduction to finish the lift. This should be a key red flag that something is going wrong. You have a weak point in your bench press. And most often, if you look at those videos where I've seen multiple people, I can tell you right off the bat that they have their long head of their triceps is underdeveloped. It's very easy to see. So what's happening, you can be pec dominant. This is also common in people who are very pec dominant, aka I have somebody I've been working with, did a ton of dumbbell bench pressing, used dumbbell work before bench pressing, and he's got very strong pecs, and his triceps are his weak point. This is also something I've seen consistently with him. Like I said, I've seen it consistently. So this should be a warning, hey, I have an issue to fix. And the way to fix it is to target the long head. So my best recommendation for that, one of my favorite bench accessories, is the JM press. But first of all, we're gonna get into what it looks like on the press when you have large amounts of shoulder abduction, and what a good press of going down in that shoulder angle should look like.
All right, so before we jump into what a good press looks like, let's focus on a few things. First of all, elbow tracking. So if you can see those bulges on my elbow, that is the olecranon process. That is a bony process that should stay in the same direction throughout the press. Otherwise, you're having shoulder abduction or adduction. Now, see, as you can see at the bottom of the press, that bony process is still in the same position, still facing the same direction. So that is what we want. We do not want the shoulders to be moving forward or back, or basically adducting or abducting. So as you can see, that shoulder angle as we come down does not change. So this is a demonstration with a 135-pound press, a few reps. You can see that angle from my upper arm, so the humerus to my torso, does not change throughout the reps. Now, if you looked at it from a lateral view, what we're looking at is the elbow basically pivots and comes down. Same thing, that bony process stays in the same direction as it comes down and on the way back up. There is no shifting of, in this case, of right or left of the elbow. It tracks straight down and comes back up, pivoting around the shoulder joint. So as you can see, drops down, and then that elbow still facing the same direction, pops back up. There's no flailing, basically elbow flare is what they call it in the press. Now, For a sloppy press, as you can see, that angle between my torso and my humerus increases. That's shoulder abduction. This is a bad press. You can see the angle of my elbows now is facing the different directions from when we start. So unrack the bar. As I bring it down, as I said, usually the eccentric portion of the lift is fine. So it looks good up to here. As I press a couple inches off the chest, elbows flare out, come up, increase that angle, stretching the pec and the long head of the triceps, oftentimes accompanied by a shrug of the upper traps, putting your shoulder in a not stable position to try and eke out the lift. Now, what does it look like from a lateral view? You see that elbow tracks down on the way up. It then sweeps or flares up. Shoulder abduction. That is not good. That's what you do not want in the press. So as you come down, you can see comes back up, swing out of the elbows. You do not want that. Once again, that's going to oftentimes accompanied by, if you saw it from a vertical angle, from basically like a shrug-like movement, and that is not what you want. So here is a video of me performing a bench press at an angle. I feel like you can see my arm movement really well and shoulder abduction angle. That angle of my humerus to torso barely changes. This is at 2/3 the speed. And this is under between 80 and 85% of my max. This is 305 pounds for sets of 6. But as you can see, very little movement. There is some, and that's going to be normal under heavier loading. But this should not be something that is practice basically sloppy. You really want to work on that. And so my recommendation is the JM press and close grip bench. So here's obviously the video of me doing the JM press. I'm going to do, since this video went way long, I'm going to do another video specifically talking about how I prefer to do the JM press and or close grip bench for max effectiveness. But those are two exercises that I think are beneficial if you're having this problem to work on that elbow flare.